What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jay, and you guys know what tonight is, right? Tonight is another Talkin Tackle. But you want to know something? Tonight is a very special Talkin Tackle, and the reason why is because this is our first female guest on the show, and I'm really excited about this because I really do want to show the diversity that is in the fishing world. It's just a beautiful thing, and I think that it's beautiful to show everything and everyone that loves how to fish. I mean, really, it brings a lot of people together. So, in tonight's Talkin Tackle, the tackle that we're going to be talking about is the OG itself, the Texas rig. And the special guest that we're going to have on tonight's show is going to be Miss Tiffany, Texas Bass Babe.
Can talk a lot.
As me too. It's fine. And seeing the intro to this, we are welcome to it. We just started recording. We're doing a Talkin Tackle. I'm ADHD, and we've just been chit chatting this whole time. So, welcome to the show, Miss Tiffany, Texas Bass Babe, if you know her. Just so everybody knows too, the tackle that we are going to be talking about mostly is the Texas rig, but we have been chit chatting. I just wanted to start recording. So, take it over. Introduce yourself. Let everybody know who you are, and yeah.
Hi, I'm Tiffany. Known on most social media as Texas Bass Babe. You can find me on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube. I just started my YouTube channel, so
Nice.
I'm slowly growing a following on that. I think I've got like 120 or something.
Oh, you're getting there. You know, it's even with all the subscribers, it's not all it's cracked up to be.
But that's been kind of a fun new adventure. It's a lot of work, and
yeah,
honestly, it was like really intimidating for me to start the YouTube thing because I was like, I know this is going to be an endeavor. Like, it's not just like posting a cute picture or
a
3-minute video or
right.
30-second video. Like, it's actually
becoming like a videographer in yourself if you're doing it on your own, especially.
Yeah. Filming everything I do, editing everything, afterwards. Like last night I was up editing videos in bed, and
takes up a lot of time, especially when you start getting like in depth with like your edits and you start wanting to see like the cool transitions, and it takes up, but it's fun. And it's a matter of if it's a passion or not. I feel like I love doing it. I have a good time doing it. It takes up time though. But
yeah, I was like so proud of myself. So I do a few videos for Cast King. They're one of my sponsors.
I've seen that
for them.
Yeah.
And one of my videos, I was so proud because I was able to like time my GoPro footage with my like iPhone footage, where like you see me like set the hook and then like, watch me reel it in, and I was like, oh,
it looked cool. That's
me. That's the extent of my editing.
Those are fun.
But yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's a new adventure for me. I love the Instagram thing. Instagram has just been, I have met so many amazing people. Like, it really is kind of crazy. Like,
I mean, if it weren't for Instagram, we wouldn't have technically talked. So
I know.
Yeah,
I mean, both just people who have become my good friends. Like, I mean, Cupcake Coley, I don't know if you know who she is, but she's one of my very best friends. She lives in California. We've never actually met in person, but we've done a few podcasts together.
Nice.
We talk on the phone, we text, about every day. So we've become really, really good friends, but through Instagram and through fishing, like we bonded over that. And then on the flip side, I've got to know a few pro anglers, and they've reached out to me and I've reached out to them. And it's just been a really cool, interesting, neat thing that, I don't know, it's like its own world.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. I've met a lot of people. If not for Instagram, I don't know if not for Instagram and YouTube, but Instagram really kicked me off as far as all the people that I started meeting. And like you said, you watched the one with Weston. If it weren't for Instagram, I never would have met Weston. I probably would have never even talked to I did that contest with Catchco, and that's kind of where Lojo, I think, I think I kind of got his attention on that one because he was a judge on that contest. But that was more YouTube based. But I feel like a lot of it, and a lot of the people I've met, a lot of the people I've talked to on this Talkin Tackle is because of Instagram. And so I agree. I think Instagram is one of those good ones that brings people together, and fishing in itself is one of those I don't know, it's its own little niche world. You kind of you got to have the passion to really understand why people go back out there and keep doing it over and over and over again. I mean, because they call it fishing. They don't call it catching. And every angler understands that more than anything, I feel like. But anybody who just goes out every now and again just wants to always catch a fish. And it's sometimes just more about the chase, about getting out there. I find more peace being out there than anything.
Yep.
So,
And for me, I mean, 90% of the time when I'm fishing by myself,
me
like
too.
usually I'm not going out. I do enjoy going out with friends, and I have, through Instagram, I've actually made a bunch of local friends who I fish with.
That's cool.
Jay Gone Fishing, and
Yeah, I've
Nathan.
talked to him actually. Yeah.
They are so much fun.
He's
I
funny.
love
Yeah,
fishing
yeah.
with those guys. Even this last year for my birthday, they took me out fishing, and we just
That's
had a
cool.
blast.
Yeah.
But yeah, great guys. And again, through Instagram, we've all become friends, and we all live here in Austin. So,
Yeah, a lot of Texas anglers. I mean, I feel like if I went to Texas, I've said it before, I'd have to spend probably about a month or so out there just trying to hang out with everybody that I know that's out in Texas. And so
yeah.
and a big reason is because of Instagram. So I'm kind of grateful for Instagram in that instance, because I wouldn't have known all these anglers. I know some local guys here, but I go fishing a lot of it by myself. It all started with, a lot of it when COVID started. So like, honestly, when I went out fishing, my goal was to kind of be secluded and go do my thing and just kind of be out on my own with nature. That was kind of the whole idea behind it. That's where my biggest passion lies, I feel like. And I enjoy talking about fishing and I love going out with people, but I need to get more local. I feel like I don't know as many local people as I do in Texas. I know more people in Texas than I think any state, honestly, when it comes to anglers and people I talk to. I know instantly know the time zone because it's central. It's like I almost should be in central time zone how often I have to talk in it. But it's all good. I always, I think it's cool. There's a lot of big fish in Texas and I'd love to come there one day. There's people I know in Alabama too, but Texas just seems to have like the biggest, to me, the like densest population of anglers or something. I don't know.
The lunkers, oh my God, I can't even keep up. Like, it seems like every week I'm like, oh wow, a 14. Oh wow, a 16. Holy smokes, a 17,
like out there, man.
Like, and yeah, guys like Josh Jones are just like
smashing it,
crushing it. And even Jay, I mean, or Jared. And I don't know Jared. He's another Austin fisherman that, of course, I follow, and his story is just kind of amazing. But yeah, like I mean, there's just guys out there just daily, Milliken fishing.
Oh
like,
yeah,
I mean, those guys are just out there
smashing it all the time,
every day.
And I don't get it. Like, I get happy over I caught a 4-pounder today and I was excited about it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what I would do if I caught something 3 times the size of that. I would just, it's mind blowing.
I saw Jay catch an 8.5 and I got to net it.
Wow.
And I was like, so he was laughing at me because I was so nervous to net that big old fish. Cause I was like, if I knock this off, like he wouldn't be upset, but I would. Cause that was like the biggest bass I'd ever seen caught in front of me. Wow. And I mean, my biggest right now is 5'11", and so I mean, which is a good size bass.
Mine's 5.86. I really need to start doing it in like ounce, like
so
I need to do it the other
11 ounces. I don't know.
Yeah,
what the point is,
I need to do that. That's, I guess it's probably close to. I mean, it's close to 6, but I mean, who knows? Anything over 6 at this point is what I'm reaching for.
Yeah, and I'm the same way. And I've started to fish a lot bigger waters, in the last couple of years. So I've been fishing a lot more lakes and getting more familiar with that, and just got myself a kayak. So
yeah, see, I have a kayak. I just fail at getting it up on a car and actually taking it out.
Yeah, I actually traded in I had a Camry. So I traded in my Camry for a 4Runner.
There you go.
Of buying a big boat, which I still have those intentions, but I got a great deal. This Hobie came up for sale and it was too good of a deal to pass up. So I was like, I'm just going to buy that. That'll at least get me out on some of the local lakes here in the meantime, until I can save up to get
something bigger. Yeah. Or see, I have a pedal drive. It's 13 foot long. It's just big. It's like 80 pounds. I
got a 14-foot Hobie.
She's so how heavy is yours?
I love her. I really love her. She's I took her out for the first time this weekend, and man, it was just
Something else.
I was comfortable standing, like no hesitation,
Yeah.
standing fishing. It does take, you've probably seen a few of my videos, and I'm not always the most coordinated person. I may have fallen off a boat and fallen in the pond a few times, and those are not like, these are not staged things. Like this,
a lot of people have those moments. It's fine.
Yeah. And honestly, like the video of me falling off Jay's boat, I was really hesitant to share that. And I have like kind of a group of friends
that's
that,
real life,
kind of Instagram people. And so I was like, do y'all think I should share this video? Like I sent it to them and they're like, heck yeah, you should. Like people relate to that.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. It's real life. It happens a lot more
so.
than you realize, especially on boats, like I have moments. I wish there were moments that I would have caught on camera. I just thought about it earlier. I went to the same lake today and I was walking over a certain area and I was like, this area right here, when I walked over it a year ago, I almost lost a shoe. I literally stepped down in this like gunk and my whole shoe came off. I had to go back, and before like it started closing on top of my shoe, I had to try to dig it out. Those are kind of moments I wish I would have had on camera so I could show, because people can relate to that. How many people have probably lost a shoe trying to walk through and get to a shortcut and should have never done that. I should have gone around, but it's one of those, it's something people can relate to. So, but I think you froze on me maybe. Yeah, your camera's frozen. And I think I can't hear you anymore either.
Oh, okay.
Okay, now we're recording again. Okay, sorry. My computer decided it wanted to disconnect from the internet, everybody. And I apologize. I have no idea where we left you. We'll figure that out as you like blend over to this video here. So we are talking about the Texas rig. So we will kind of like she said, she did good segue to get into actually talking about the Texas rig. So why the Texas rig? Why do you love the Texas rig? What about it makes you want to fish it all the time?
So honestly, I love Texas rig fishing because when I started fishing, that was one of the very first things that, years and years ago that I learned to fish. And it works almost any time of year. You can put so many different kinds of lures on it. You can fish it so many different ways, just with a simple, EWG hook, like with the weight, without a weight. When I started out, I didn't even have bullet weights. I would just use a split shot.
Yeah, weight's a weight as long as it gets down there.
Yeah, and I mean, and now of course I use bullet weights, and I have even like my fancy little like red ones that I like.
Oh, there you go. Why red?
So I use red a lot, especially pre-spawn. I'll use the red weight and I'll use a red hook. One of my favorite colors of Senko's is red shad, and I just feel like it gives it like an extra flash. Like
makes sense.
I fish a ton of murky water, like because I do a lot of pond fishing, and even a lot of the lakes that I fish
didn't have that hue.
Yeah, but they have that kind of like stained water. So that tint to them, that brown tint, especially out in East Texas, like Rayburn. And
y'all get a lot of wind out there?
Huh?
Y'all get a lot of wind out there?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
So it probably keeps it murky.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so with those dirtier waters, like that red sometimes will pop, and it'll just be something that they react to.
That makes sense.
But the versatility with Texas rig is what I love. And I fish it a lot. I mean, a lot. Probably
if you had to
like force myself not to fish it all the time.
I've been there. When I first started fishing, the Texas rig was like the only thing I wanted to throw. And it's because it was catching me the most fish. It's one of those things you can fish in, I feel like every season, and just about, and depending on the situation, especially on pressured ponds. There's just something about the Texas rig, whether it be weightless or weighted, there's something about that profile that just gets it bit, and like you said, it can be literally be any plastic you really want, it depends on the situation, but I mean, you can do worms, you can do creature baits, you can do, anything. It's endless as far as the actual Texas rig is concerned. I mean, the biggest thing with Texas rig is that it's weedless, I feel like, and with bank anglers especially, weedless is essential. That's like one of the key things about, I mean, with any angler really, but bank anglers, I feel like have that extra need for weedless situations. So I feel like that's why the Texas rig was one of those things I went to. I had a hard time getting away from it.
And I mean, a lot of the ponds that I fish just have like a ton of cover at the bottom. You know, like it's not like they're rocky bottoms or sandy bottoms. Like a lot of them are just like full vegetation.
And so limbs and all kinds of stuff.
Pop that Texas rig through it, you know, you constantly get that drop. Yeah, the weedless really, really helps.
Go for it.
And I love fishing timber too. I mean, I think Texas rigs are great for that.
What kind of weight do you use there?
I usually use a 1/4 ounce weight. That's kind of my standard. That's what I go to. I have 3/16 that I'll use sometimes, especially, you know, smaller ponds, like a 1/4 ounce is sometimes a lot.
Sometimes. Yeah, I have a hard time getting away from the 1/4 ounce a lot of the time. Even on the ponds that I'll fish, I'll still for some, and a lot of the times it's because it's what I already have tied on. So I'll just kind of go with it. But I do throw like an 1/8 of an ounce. I haven't really thrown many 3/16, and I feel like I should, because it's a good in-between weight, and I know that. I couldn't tell you. I think it's because I just don't actually, I just own more 1/8 of an ounces and 1/4 ounces. So I'm just kind of using them up still, maybe. I don't really know. I haven't really gone out of my way to buy 3/16 of an ounce weight, but it's probably a good size. If you had to choose, you know, like what's your favorite kind of, you said EWG, so you prefer EWG style.
Yeah, sometimes I'll fish like the J hooks, but I'm not the biggest fan of, or I guess they call it a worm hook.
The longer worm hooks. Yeah,
that's kind of the J style with the, you know, little indentation. But I feel like, I don't know what it is, but I feel like these just do, you know, they do better. Coming through stuff. I don't feel like they get hung up really. I don't have an issue ever setting the hook with these, you know, like I feel like they rip through really well. So
do you have a favorite hook specifically, like a brand, or do you have a favorite, like what size hook do you prefer?
I usually use either a 3 or a 4/0. I wouldn't say I have a favorite brand. Gamakatsu, I always say it wrong.
Gamakatsu, tomato.
Yeah, Gamakatsu, I think.
There you go.
Well, we're just making things up here.
Yeah, hey, everybody knows what we meant.
But that's what I typically buy, because that's what I can find. I actually like the Berkeley hooks. Like I like the weight of them. They're a little bit heavier gauge hook, I feel like, but they're harder for me to find. I haven't tried a ton of other brands. Like I just usually buy what I find. So
I gotcha. I like I
have had an issue on my 3/0. Like I've had a few that I've actually snapped in half. So I was not thrilled with that, but I learned something by somebody's post. I don't remember whose it was, but they talked about, I like to fish really salty Senkos. Like I usually use a Yamamoto is my favorite kind of Senko, but I usually leave it rigged up. Like, I mean, I'm guilty of it even now. Like,
on the hook.
Yeah. And apparently, yes, it'll corrode the hook and it'll cause it to snap. I mean, I just fished this yesterday, so I don't feel that bad about it. But yeah, if you leave it for an extended period of time, it actually causes a weak point in your hook. And I didn't know that. So that was a really neat tip that I picked up from Instagram.
And that's something, and that's what a lot of, especially beginning anglers, and that's, you know, a lot of the times when I'm doing these videos, that's what I like to see. The audience that I was speaking to is more of a beginner angler, and it may not be. I mean, you know, we have not a lot. I guess I tried to look last time. I have a good bit of people who are repeat viewers, which are good. But I like to also think that I have beginners that are watching. And so that's a great tip for anybody who's beginning. Especially if you only go out every now and again. If you're only going out every now and again, clean your hooks off, take the plastics off, especially if you're doing a Senko, which is like the most popular thing you're going to fish with a Texas rig. So make sure you take those off your hooks, because they will erode your hooks, they will make a weak spot, and they will break, even if they're Gamakatsu hooks. And if you don't know, Gamakatsu is one of the like top brand hooks that are out there. It's one of the most popular ones. You'll see the name brand, and they're good hooks. Like there's no doubt about it in my mind. They're great hooks. So like that's what I'm trying to get at, is even a Senko will get through a Gamakatsu hook. So that means something.
Yeah. And I know, so I don't usually peg mine, but
I was gonna ask. That's awesome. That's, I love it when we like cover the stuff that I'm already gonna ask it. Like I was literally thinking it in my head.
I mean, I keep pegs because some situations you need it to be pegged. But I personally, like, a lot of people are like, oh, you should peg it all the time and this and that. But I think it fishes different when that weight falls and then that Senko falls behind it. Like, it just has a different movement to it. And usually it's on that pop when it's coming back down, that I get hit really hard.
Yeah.
And
That drop, I feel like a drop has, it's something about the drop hits that's just have that falling effect. There's something that I love about that because I love that strike. There's something about it. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Well, and I even like when I'm like right now, I'm not doing a ton of fast, kind of twitching with, usually in the summer, like I'll fish it really fast. Like, I mean, I will cast and cast and cast and cast. And it's more about the number of casts and getting it out there, quick pops, pulling it back in and casting it back out. So I usually fish mine on a pretty fast reel. Like I use a Cast King, of course, because but I use an 811, so it's a pretty fast reel.
Is it the Royal Legend?
Yeah,
I have that same reel. I kid you not, that's hilarious. Hold on.
I love this reel for Texas rig fishing. And I mean, and the rod is really nice too. It's a Royal Select. So, yeah. Hilarious. And I actually just bought another one because I love it so much.
So I kind of feel like I was kind of dumb, and I decided to make that reel my first reel that I decided to just like totally dissect and take apart and clean, and shouldn't have done that for my first reel because I love that reel, and that was one of those mistakes I made, I feel like. But I literally just put it back together. So for anybody who's viewing this and was like, whatever happened to that third video where you put your reel back together? I just did it, and I didn't want to record it because I had no idea how to put it back together. I totally forgot.
Cast King has all their specs online. Yeah. So if that ever happens to you, you can like literally find the diagram to show you where all the pieces go.
Yeah. And that's just for anybody. I mean, that's good to know too, because you have to be able to find it. They come when you get your reel box and everything, it comes with it.
With the map.
And it's something, nobody really thinks to save that unless you really start getting them. And then you're like, I might need that in the future. But, for anybody who's just going out and doing nothing, or any beginning anglers, save the boxes, save everything that comes in that box, because one day you might need it again. So, I know. Yeah, it definitely came in handy. I saved all
my boxes, and my dog literally ate one of them the other day. And I was so mad at her. I was like,
oh, Pepper, man, you destroyed my map.
Why'd you eat my new reel box? But
and it was a new one.
Yeah, the map was still in there. So I was able to take all the guts out of it. Just the whole box was like destroyed. She's huge. She's a huge puppy. She's like 70 pounds.
What kind of dog?
She was a stray, so she's definitely a Rottweiler, and nice. I think lab mixed, because she looks a little lab, but she definitely has like all the Rottweiler markings.
She's a hefty girl.
She's a big girl.
Those are always fun. I tell you what, Rotties are fun. I like Rottweilers. I like labs too. So I mean, that's a good mix. She's gonna be a big girl though, for sure. If that's the mix, she
can already jump my 6-foot fence.
Yeah, that's gonna be bigger. How old is she?
We think she's 11 months old. We found her on the side
so she's not even a year.
Yeah, that's what the vet thinks.
That'll be fun. That'll be fun with the terrible twos.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of puppy training right now.
That's good. Well, she's smart. I mean, she's definitely got the breed, so she'll get it down for sure.
Yeah, within the first week, stupid me, I was like, I'm gonna leave her in the garage while I'm at work, because I felt bad putting her in a kennel. I do not anymore. So I put her in the garage one day, and I came home like at lunch. Like, it wasn't even like I was gone for a full day. I was gone for a few hours, and she had like tore up my garage.
Oh no.
Like, all the styrofoam, like insulation on my garage doors, she like ripped it out.
Oh no.
She opened the back door into my house, went into the house, and like ripped up the whole house.
So she's smart. She's just a puppy. She managed to get into the house when she was not inside of the house. So that's funny. That's just one of those fun experiences with puppies.
Yeah.
Me and my girlfriend, we've actually been looking at puppies. We just applied for an adoption, one of the rescues around here, because we want to do a rescue. That's how we want to go about it. So I'm waiting for the approval. They're only open like Thursdays and Fridays or something. So like I'm waiting for this Thursday to see if everything, because we have her brother's dog. He lives here. He's 7 years old. He's a min pin dachshund mix, and I had to get all his paperwork all updated and all that stuff for the approval process. So I'm just kind of waiting for the okay before we really start looking, because we found a couple, but they got adopted like that, you know, so we don't want to give our hopes up on anything, but we're looking to adopt a puppy soon. That'll be fun. Like to have one of those fun experiences. I just can't wait.
Can't wait. Yeah.
But so what's your go-to rod size? What would your, as far as a rod's concerned, what's the size, what's the sensitivity, the everything? What's your go-to on that?
So I usually use a medium heavy fast for the majority of my applications. Obviously, there are exceptions to that. You know, I fish some lighter rods and I fish some heavier rods.
And they can always,
but for Texas rig, I usually fish, you know, a medium heavy, either a 6.5 foot or 7 foot rod is typically what I go with.
Yeah, 6.5's a bit small for me as far as it's on the shorter end. I'm usually using something over,
I'm like, what is this?
7 foot, 7.2, something like that. It's usually what I'm using.
Yeah, this one's a 7 foot fast action, medium heavy.
And that's the usual go-to. I mean, and I feel like that's one of the more popular ones, is a 7 foot medium heavy, either a fast or an extra fast tip. I prefer fast. Extra fast tends to be a little too much, but you know, that depends on the angler. You know, I like to fish a little bit more woods. And some people, even with a lot of the wood that I fish with, will actually tell you to go with a more moderate tip because of the wood factor. But
interesting.
I haven't found it being anything more of an issue with. I like the fast tip. I have a lot of laydowns that I like to fish, like if you're flipping and pitching to it, but I don't know, that fast tip is like the money for me.
Yeah. I've had good luck with it, especially like right now, like I've been getting like a ton of short strikers, you know, like
right at the
bank.
Come
up to the bank, they just hit it. And with that fast tip, you're able to set it, you know.
Yeah, it still gets in there enough that you can just pull it right, and setting it up straight. Is that how you set up straight?
I set it up straight if it's close like that. If it's kind of further out, I'll step back and set in.
Like get it, make sure it's on there. Yeah, that was the fun part. I Texas rigged, so I did a belly weighted hook today, but I still Texas rigged it. I mean, I guess so. That's where it's kind of like Texas rig is so wide as far as like what you consider a Texas rig. So technically a Texas rig is how you rig it on the hook itself. Yeah. You know, so like I feel like I can almost like turn around.
Like quarter ounce here.
Yeah.
I'll rig us up a Texas rig.
There you go. Hey, there we go. I was like, I'm sure I can. I have everything around me.
So yeah, this is like one of my favorite Senkos. I'm going to use this is a little smaller hook, but yeah.
See, I actually go with 2-aughts a lot of the times, and they're thin wires, and people will disagree with me there, but I do a lot of fishing with the ponds. And so I feel like with the smaller profile in general, and their VMCs, they're sharp, but it doesn't do me any wrong.
Hard to show.
There you go.
There's your Texas rig.
So that's the Texas rig.
So this is a 3-aught, which I fish a lot, especially if it's clearer water. I'll go with the 3-aught over the 4-aught. If it's like murky, muddy water, I'll usually use the 4-aught just to make sure I get that hook
get it in there. See, maybe I need to try using bigger hooks. I always wonder. I just kind of, I don't know. Something about the bigger hooks just kind of, maybe it's like an intimidation. I'm not sure. Maybe they're thicker, and I've never really, the thin wires, it's not even like it's an actual, like normal 2-aught hooks are actually thicker than what I use.
And it's not even like that huge of a difference, you know, like.
No, yeah. If you put 2 sizes next to each other, you can't hardly see the difference. You gotta have to put like 2 or 3 size differences to see the physical difference between them. But
I know a lot of people for worms like the J hook, but I personally, I prefer the extra wide gap. Sometimes for creature baits, I'll use these.
That's so funny. I was literally about to say, I actually prefer a crawl style that I have, the saw crawl by 10,000 Fish. It's not like it's an extra long body. It's typical size, but something about it, I like putting it on those styles instead. I don't know why. it just sits better on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I totally agree with that, which is strange. I haven't actually heard anybody ever say that before. So it's like, oh, well, maybe we're not the only ones out there.
Yeah. I mean, and I just kind of play around with it. I fish a ton of, the other thing, I mean, obviously I fish a ton of Senkos, and anyone who follows my page knows, like, I love stick baits, and I even do like little stick bait reviews because people, I guess because I love them so much, think that they need to send them to me. So
people love reviews. Well, yeah, there you go. You make it, it's like a niche in itself.
But yeah, so I really enjoy them. And Yamamoto, for me, takes the cake. And I know there's a lot of controversy probably over that statement, because a lot of people don't feel like they're too soft, feel like they don't last long enough, their durability.
I just think they're expensive.
And they are expensive.
You know?
That being said, like, they fish, there's just something about them that fishes a little different, and
they get bit. Yeah.
And I do use different stick baits for different applications. Like if I'm doing like a shaky head, I'll usually want like one that's less salty, because
one that floats a little bit better in the tail.
Yeah, and the hook stays in it a little bit better. Like sometimes the Senkos, I feel like I'm constantly
changing them.
Yeah, because in a shaky head, I like to side hook mine rather than push it through, only because I feel like I get a better hook set.
Yeah. I feel like that's popular because, like, you're talking about how you just kind of put it in the middle, right? Like, yeah, like I do that on my shaky head.
It to the side, like almost to the side of it, rather than straight through it and back into it. But
different. If you get a better hook set, you can't. I mean, that's where it always applies to you, as far as like, if you get a better hook set with something, and stick with it. You know what I mean? Like, don't change it now. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
And honestly, my hook set has improved a lot. Like, that's something that over the last 2 years I've really worked on, because I did used to have a hard time really setting that hook.
Absolutely.
And this is going to sound silly, but I'm like a pretty short person. I'm only 5'3", so I'm a little person. And I feel like with a shorter rod, I have a better hook set. And I know that sounds really strange, but that's why in some of my applications, I do use probably a smaller rod than a man would use.
Absolutely.
Because I feel more comfortable setting that hook on that shorter rod.
That makes sense. I mean, it really does. We've talked about it. I have such a hard time remembering specifically who I talked to about certain things. I've talked about it with a couple of the guys at this point. And like I said, I don't know if I've mentioned it yet in the actual recording. I know I mentioned it before, but you are the first female on the actual show of Talkin Tackle. So thank you. I really appreciate it. But I've talked about it with a couple of the guys, as far as it's going to be different per your height. And so it makes a lot of sense. And overall, not always. So this is like I'm not neglecting short men here, but overall women are shorter. Now I'm 5'8". I'm on the taller side, as far as, like 5'5" is like your average. I think 5'4", 5'5" is somewhere where you feel like the average female is. So like I'm 5'8". So I throw 7-foot rods, and that's where I feel comfortable. But it makes complete sense that you're like, you're 5'3". So it makes sense that you want to throw something shorter. You feel like you have more control. And I mean, I feel like it's just kind of like, I mentioned it with somebody about, it's like when you play softball or baseball and you measure up with a bat, you have to have the right measurements for it to be best in your hands. Yep. So for the application of
the right weight, like all of it, I think comes into play. And I think it's no different with fishing. I think it's something that isn't talked about a lot, though.
No, it's fishing. Not. It's really not.
They like, talk about, for this application, you should have this size rod.
Right.
And this, and I fish a lot of stiffer rods for a lot of applications because of that too. Like, I just feel like I've gotten a little bit away from that. Like, I've gotten into more kind of finessey type rods, especially with my spinning applications, like small swim baits, things like that. Because I've gotten more comfortable, with setting the hook on those applications. But initially, like, even like with a shaky head, like I would fish it, even though typically it's fished with a more sensitive rod, I would fish it on a harder rod because I had a hard time setting the hook on those more sensitive rods.
Right.
I've gotten better. So
practice makes perfect.
To, progress to it. But I think fishing is one of those things that you really need to make your own, and kind of listen to your inner voice and what works for you. And
absolutely.
It's not one size fits all. And a lot of people try to make it that. they'll tell you you're doing it wrong, or they'll tell you,
Yeah.
and I've just kind of like, I take advice and I take criticism, and I have learned so much from so many different anglers, but I also listen to myself when I'm fishing, and
Yeah.
fish almost every day,
You take it
so
with a grain of salt.
yeah,
Yeah.
and maybe it works for you, but it didn't
Right.
work for me. Or
Right.
maybe I need to try it a few more times until it works for me.
Right.
Like it just all depends. And so yeah, it's
I
interesting.
agree. Yeah,
But
and the thing is, what I love about the Texas rig is that's actually one of those. I think it's the most versatile rig out there. Like, par none, the most versatile rig. Like above
and
all and above everything. So with it being
it's
that, to me,
versatile and it's easy.
yeah, it's
You
simple
know?
and it's. I think I've only been hardcore fishing for like 2 years, but the Texas rig is like the first rig anybody really learns. And if I'm wrong, anybody that I've ever met, anybody that I've ever taught, the Texas rig is the first thing I'll teach anybody how to do anything with, because it's effective and it's simple and it's hard to really mess it up. I mean, you throw it out there, you let it do it almost on its own. You got to hop it a little bit. There's different ways, and it's per the season. Every season calls for a little bit of a different cadence, but it will work. You just got to really understand what you're throwing, how you're supposed to be bringing it in. But I don't know. I love the Texas rig. I think it's one of my favorites because of the versatility that it has for everybody. And, when it comes to like a rod or whatever, your own personal setup, you're going to find your happy medium. And even though we can shoot numbers out there and tell you what the average number is or what the average weight is or whatever that you're wanting to throw, go out there, throw whatever's going to be applicable to you. There we go. Something like that. And it depends on the situation, because like, you like throwing lighter weights. I like throwing lighter weights typically too, but if you talk to a lot of the guys that are out doing a lot of the pitching and flipping and they're out on their boats, they will totally tell you the whole nother story. They'll tell you to peg it. They'll tell you to put an ounce weight on there. They'll tell you to put I mean, big ounce weights, that, and it's still Texas rigging. Technically punching and flipping is a form of Texas rig. It's the way you rig it on there. The hook may be a little different because you can go with the straight shank hook, but it's still Texas rig. But the weight's different. The profile itself, can be similar as far as plastics, but it's different in the weight and everything like that. They use bigger hooks. They peg it. I mean, it can go from like one whole side to another, and it's still Texas rig.
Well, and even like the lines you can fish it on. Like, I mean, I fish mine both. Usually I'll use like a 15-pound fluoro is kind of my standard, what I
Go
keep
to.
on this
Yeah.
rod. But then I also almost always have one rigged up straight braid, and if it's murky water, if it's a lot of timber, I'm going to fish that braid because it's going to be able to rip through all of that stuff.
Yeah, that's true. I was literally about to be like, what? Because like to me, straight braid is just, it's not something I would typically use. Not me personally, you know what I mean? And I like 12 to 15 fluoro. That's my typical go-to. I have braid as backing, but I don't ever actually get to the braid part on my reel.
I love braid.
Yeah, why? Why do you like braid so much?
And maybe it's because I fish a lot of murky water that you can get away with it. Okay. I don't have to have that clear line.
Yeah.
And I fish a lot of areas where, you need that kind of thick line to get through. And I feel like you get a sensitivity with braid that you don't get with fluoro. And so I can really feel every little movement of that Texas rig, because for me, that's a lot of it. Is I feel like when I'm fishing a Texas rig, it's very much about the feel of what's around me, the feel of the bottom of, the lake or the pond or whatever river, that I'm fishing.
Whatever. Yeah.
If I'm fishing it through a brush pile, like feeling each little twitch of working it through that brush pile before it gets hit, and so a lot of times with braid, you just have that sensitivity so I'll often fish also braid to a short fluoro leader.
Yep.
And usually it'll be either 12 or 15-pound leader, depending on where I'm fishing.
And what pound braid are you typically using?
For that, probably 20 pounds.
Oh, okay. So you like it lighter. So, there's a lot of people out there that will not like go beyond. They won't go like below 40-pound braid. Yeah, something like that. Like you start talking about that and guys are just like, I'm not even touching that.
Yeah,
so 20-pound braid.
If I'm frogging, if I'm fishing,
Heavier.
Other, like sometimes I'll fish my chatterbait straight braid, those kind of things I'll fish in a heavier braid. But
yeah.
For this application, I'll fish 20-pound braid, and I have rarely ever had my braid break.
Okay.
And usually if I do, it's because it's my fault because I didn't retie it.
Yeah. That happens a lot. Do you ever have backlashing issues considering with the braid? I know that's a lot of the reasons some people will stay away from it is because it backlashes a lot easier.
Honestly, so when I first started with my bait casters, I put up a post. It was a few years ago, and I put up a post and I was like, hey, I'm buying my first bait caster, like so excited,
Yeah.
I had fished for years, but I'd always fished a spinning reel.
Yeah.
Or like a push button.
Yeah, something, not a bait caster.
Like something simple like that. Like I knew no different. So when I really started getting into fishing and started fishing daily, I wanted to advance. I wanted to be a better angler. And I'd see all these people with bait casters. And honestly, it was intimidating for me. It was like if you don't know, you don't know. So so I put up this post like, I bought this. What the hell do I do with it? And
I feel like that's so true. If you don't know, you don't know, because it's like bait casters are just a whole nother world.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's all these components to it. Like, what do these knobs do? And I watched a ton of YouTube video. I had friends sending me YouTube videos to watch, and
that's awesome. I mean, at least you
dial it in and all of that. But I made after all of the things. I made a conscious decision that I wanted to learn to fish braid because of the conditions that I fish in. I knew I was going to have to fish braid. So from the get-go, I spooled up with braid, and I spooled up with 20-pound braid, a heavier braid. It's the Super Power braid from Cast King. And that was even before I was a Cast King rep.
Is it? Yeah. I have a lot of Cast King stuff. Is it the H strand that they have? Yeah.
No, not the Super 8. They actually have a Super Power braid, and it's a really heavy, nice braid. But like it's the one I use on most of my applications, other than finesse fishing.
Okay, so is it
a whole different?
Is it heavier dutier? Is it heavier duty than a normal 20-pound braid? Like, is there something about it that makes it?
It's
you know what I mean. I don't know. I wonder if that's part of why that 20-pound braid is maybe better than other 20-pound braid.
And maybe it is a thicker braid. Like the diameter of it is a little bit heavier, but I don't know if it's coated.
Oh, we got you freezing a little bit.
I typically buy it, it's dyed and everything, but I have found that picking out backlashes with it is no problem. And I've had some nasty ones, mainly because I, like you, am ADHD, and I get super hyper focused on where I'm casting and not what's
around me. Oh my gosh.
So I catch trees, bushes. I get caught in, I'm in Texas, and I'm usually like in knee-high boots fishing in tall things, like weeds and whatever. Like I just tromp out there, and then I go to cast, and I like catch whatever's behind me.
You don't think about, you're looking at what's in front of you. I understand that so well. I did it the other day, actually. I went to one of the ponds that's right around the corner from me, and there's this one of these little spots where it's like a little dip. You walk down in it, but it's literally around you because you walk down. So around you is all this bush. And I literally, I went back like this, and it caught in the bush, and I went full force forward and just exploded. I couldn't get it out. I had to cut it out and put on new line because there was just no saving that one. A lot of the times I'll take the patience and I'll take the time and I'll bring it out. You know what I mean? But like that one, I sat there probably for 20 minutes trying to get it out. And I was just like, there's just no way.
Yeah.
I gave up finally. But so that's good though. I mean, it's good to know that there's certain braids, because braid can give you, now, I don't know if you get more backlash with braid, but I do know that when you get backlash with braid, it tends to be harder to pull out. That's what any experience that I've had. So that's good.
I think if you, maybe with a lighter braid, I would probably agree with that. Like I fish like a finesse braid that's like kind of like almost like a dental floss feel to it. And that's what I fish on my spinning reels. So I'll fish that and then to a fluoroliter.
Okay. But yeah, actually I have that on one of my setups too. I think it's like a 10-pound. I think it's a 10-pound braid or an 8-pound braid. It's one, but yeah, they're super thin.
Yeah, well, and casking has these, and it's called 13X finesse braid, and it is
Yeah.
like I will fish a 15-pound braid, but it is like super thin. Like the diameter of that braid is just micro thin. And
Wow.
I mean, I can cast so far. It is so sensitive. Like I love that braid. But I love it for those applications. Like I
Yeah.
would not use that on my bait caster unless, it was like a finesse bait caster, which I don't own any yet.
I
have not
can't
gotten
wait.
into
I'm so ready to get into the bait finesse system game. Like I'm waiting for a certain rod to drop, and I have like certain reels that I have in mind. I have suggestions that everybody talks about, but I still just kind of taking my time looking at them. But like I'm excited to get into the BFS game because I like in pond situations when you're bank angling, it's like the best kind of profile you can really have. And I prefer bait casters, just over spinning combos. I started more with a bait caster. I played 12 years of softball, and so I literally, well, 12
I get that. Yeah, I was the same way. I was a catcher.
yeah, see, and I was the first and third and center. So like throwing and sidearm, and like for me, I feel like being with a bait caster, it almost feels right. You know what I mean? I don't know how to explain that. It feels to me better than
center field.
Huh? Yeah. Hey, there we go.
Yeah,
It's the
so that's
greatest
what I
play.
was
One of
catcher and
my
I played
favorites.
center field. Those were my two positions. But.
Nice. Yeah, I did a lot of the only reason I ever even got to third base is because I ended up catching one really good one time. I caught like a really good ball that was like right in there. The guy was like, "You're playing third," and it played. I mean, it worked out well. I broke my thumb actually from the catcher. So, but but yeah, softball is something I feel like I can almost put it. The reason why I can throw a bait caster so well is because I knew how to throw a ball. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but like
but it's a similar motion. Yeah.
Yeah, but I did not realize that people didn't know how to throw them, and then a lot of those people don't know how to throw balls very well either, and you don't really
But
realize
even
how
like
many
sidearming, like skipping, like I mean, it's that motion. Like
that comes more. That I can do that a lot easier than some other people that I know, and it's got to be because I spent so many years learning how to throw a ball. You know what I mean? There's got to be a relation there. Yeah. So and it's amazing. So like I don't know. It's something about that. I just thought it was kind of funny how those two are related. Like if you can't really throw a ball too well, you might have to work a little bit longer on throwing a bait caster, but don't give up. I feel like a bait caster is like awesome to have. They definitely up your game in a lot lot So but that's why I want to be BFS.
That's really like intimidating for people, bait casters, if you've never fished one. But I would recommend, I mean, YouTube, there's a ton of really great videos. I know Ryan Rigg just did one recently on how to dial in, when you're a beginner, how to use a bait caster. And those kind of videos, as when I started using it, I mean, were so helpful.
They help a lot. Yep.
And especially to put a weight on it and to let it fall slowly. So how to
dial it in while you're in this kind of setting and you're not throwing it out there and letting it explode at you. You don't.
Yeah. Well, and fishing conditions that are like easy to fish in, like don't go out your first time when it's 20 mile per hour winds.
Not for your first time. No.
And cast all of those tips I think are helpful for people. And then, once you learn it, it's like,
it's part of you.
Yeah. You just do it. And it is so much, I think it's so much quicker, like to cast and recast, like fishing a Texas rig application. Cause I'll fish it on both. Yeah. I'll fish a Texas rig on a spinning reel as well. Just sometimes I'll bring one rod and
I'll do that when I'm doing more finesse applications. Sometimes I'll do it more on my spinning rod, but like 90% of the time I just have one bait. I usually have one rod, but it's usually a bait caster. So
yeah. And for me, it was more like out of convenience, especially when I started tournament angling. Like I only owned 6 rods at that time. Now I own way more, but so I was bringing 6 rods and I'm like, okay, what am I going to tie on to what? Like, what can I use for which application? So like if I'm throwing cranks and things like that, well, I'm not going to want to throw that on my spinning reel, but Texas rig, I can get away with it on either,
Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah. And I have kind of a stout spinning reel that I use for it. It's a little heavier. It's a 4000 series. So it's a little bit heavier.
A big reel.
Yeah. Of a reel. It's not a huge reel. Like the actual reel itself isn't huge, but it's got a lot of oomph to it.
Yeah. It has like more, I guess backbone, but typically when you think of backbone, you think of rod, but like, I know what you mean. They're like, it's
the
more
drag
stout.
on it, I forget what the drag is. It's like 30 something pounds of drag in that reel.
Jeez.
Like, I mean, I could bring in, a tuna with it, but not really.
You can fish that one just about
They
anywhere.
designed one to bring in tunas, but yeah.
Oh man. So overall, like what is your favorite fish to fish for? Is it bass or?
Oh yeah, largemouth bass.
Yeah.
I love them. I can't even describe like how people always comment like, you smile in every picture with your fish. And I'm like,
because it's great.
That's because it genuinely makes me very happy to catch a bass, regardless of the size. I mean, I have one video where I had got an ultralight set up. And it was my first time fishing it. And I was like, I'm going to target bass with this ultralight. Like I watched all these videos on it. And yeah, I caught like 2-inch bass.
Yeah,
but
they're tiny.
So much fun. Like,
yeah, they're fun.
I mean, I had a hell of a good time, out there catching my tiny little dinks.
I do that. I'll go out there and intentionally do that sometimes, especially if I'm going on a bout of like just nothing. And I'll go out and be like, okay, I'm taking my smaller profiles because especially right now with the spawning and everything like that, it's easy almost to kind of target them on the bank. They're just all over the bank at the moment. They're not necessarily biting. They bit pretty good today, but that doesn't mean anything about tomorrow. But I feel like a lot of the times with some of the ponds, I'll definitely dial down and go to my spinning combo and just kind of get a smaller profile. And just sometimes I'll even go out and catch bluegill just for the fun of it, just to feel what it feels like to catch a fish again.
Yeah.
I haven't done that actually in a long time. I was looking at them today and there were so many bluegill today. And I was just like, holy crap, I might have to, and I'm talking decent, not like, big ones that some people can get to. I don't know how people get that. If I ever catch a pound bluegill or something like that, I will be like in awe because I've never personally seen one that big. I've seen them in pictures. I know they exist. Yeah. I just don't think they exist in ponds around me. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly who I'm talking about. She catches, and she breeds them, you know what I mean? And they get them that big, but like for the fact that they exist in general, to be that big is like the bluegill around me.
It's so fun to have on the hook because they're so erratic, like they're like,
they don't, I guess they fight. They kind of fight when I get them on my super. I have actually an ice combo. It's like 3 foot. It's something silly. And when I first started fishing, I took it out just to fish for bluegill, just for the fun of it. I was fishing for bass too, but I just decided to take that out. And if I wasn't having any luck, I just go fish for bluegill. And they can fight if they get on there all right. So I wonder how much those big ones will actually get to you. It's got to be pretty entertaining. I wouldn't mind catching those. Those guys are big. I bet you those are fun.
I bet it is fun, especially because typically, you have a pretty fast action and light rod. So you're really having to pull them in, even
even catching small bass on a setup like that. That's what I enjoy doing. Like I said, I'll take even my crappie setup and I'll go out and I'll target smaller bass because the fight feels like you're fighting like a 2-pounder. You know what I mean? Because they still like to fight. And I feel like even the smaller ones sometimes that they actually fight harder sometimes. Like today, I feel like the thump and the bite that I felt the most actually came from the smaller fish. Actually the 4-pounder I caught, the only reason I feel like I caught it was because I literally threw it like right on top of its head. I watched the water like engulf it and I was like, that was way too big for my bait to have just made that. It like, and just took it. So had I not thrown it like right on its head, I'm not even sure if I would have gotten it. But the other fights and the bites that were stronger and they came from the smaller fish. But
and I've never caught a monster bass. Like I said, my biggest bass right now is 5 pounds, 11 ounces.
Hey, that's huge. Now, let's not underestimate 5'11". That's pretty big for some people, especially people who aren't living in the South. If you live up north, 5'11" something you might see once.
Yeah. And like last year I caught a 5'8", which to me was a much more impressive fish than the 5'11" that I had caught. Because the 5'11" that I caught was big bodied, but like fat.
The
5'8" was like that bass should have been 7 pounds, but it was summer, it was skinny.
Yeah.
But the head on it, oh my God. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I could have put like both my hands in there. It was just massive. And the gills.
The one you wish you would have caught right now.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I caught that bass at the same pond that I caught those 2 little dinky ones at, so it's like, you never know.
You never know.
I do tournament fishing. I do pond fishing. And I know there's like controversy over like, should you count your PB from a pond and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, do what you want, people. Like, be happy.
If you didn't count your PB from ponds, then I wouldn't have a fish at all.
It's, to me, that whole debate between like pond fishermen and like, lake anglers, I don't understand it. Like, to me, fishing, it's a lot of fun. I do both.
All right.
I've fished Sam Rayburn, which is a massive big water lake. I mean, it is an open water lake. It is humongous. And I fished the pond that's down by the gas station down the street from me.
Right.
Like, literally, it's next to a gas station.
Right.
And I've caught 3-pounders in that little pond, so.
I mean, you'd be shocked what's, there's big fish in ponds. I mean, I think it's almost ridiculous to count them out, because like, if you're counting them out, you're missing a lot of big fish. I've seen 8-pounders come out of these local ponds, which is why I stay on them, because it's like, they're there. You don't have to count them. That's fine. I'll count them all day long. I'm catching 5- and 6-pounders at a local pond. I don't know. It's tough. And it's not like they're highly pressured.
Not everybody has access to a lake. Not everybody has access to rivers.
Right. My closest lakes are like an hour away, like I mean, and that's not far, for some other people, I'm sure. But like, the convenient factor is I have ponds that are like 5 minutes away. My whole little town is just like surrounded by little ponds. There's some I haven't even touched yet. There's so many, you know what I mean? Like, and that to me is its own adventure, because it's different everywhere you go. And every pond is different. They're always going through different cycles. You'll go to one pond and you can literally walk to another one, and it'll be in a whole nother cycle of spawn or pre-spawn. And the population can be different because of whatever, the bluegill or the crappie, whatever. I like that aspect of it. It's totally different almost all the time.
Like, my family has a ranch, and on our ranch we have 6 different ponds.
Wow.
And each pond is like its own, the bass are different. Like, I can literally look at a picture and tell you which pond I caught that bass at.
Yeah. See, that's cool
to me. I love that.
Different.
Even their eye color will change in it. I mean, it's really, really interesting. Like, I've been transferring bass from one pond into another pond, and so that'll be interesting.
trying to mix the genes a little bit, see what happens.
We have to drain, like, we have to break the dam on it and drain one of them. So we're trying to transfer as many bass as we can out.
I gotcha.
Which my brother-in-law was funny. He was like, I'm going to call Texas Bass Babe to do this.
There you go.
So that's where I've been spending my weekends.
There you go. I got to record that though. Make a video out of it.
I actually am.
Cool.
Next month there should be, or this month in March.
Yeah, we're in March now. It's the first. And just for everybody's, just to know, I do have a lot of these that kind of release over time. And like, I record them sometimes. So like, it's the first that we're recording, but this may not come out until like closer to April. But yeah.
No, I totally get it.
It's been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed doing this. And like I said, I really appreciate, I don't know why if people can let me know in the comments as to why females are having a harder time coming on my show, because I told you about one. She told me she didn't have the confidence to come on to it's not, I guess you'd call her podcast or whatever. And that's why I'm glad I'm trying to get more, because I do want to encourage more females to get out there and fish. I think it's an underrated thing. We know how to fish. It's not like it's not rocket science. And I don't know. I appreciate you coming on.
I do think for a lot of females, especially who maybe are newer to fishing, and it is intimidating. It's intimidating to step out into what's traditionally been a man's world.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And to put your opinion out there and, feel like maybe I don't know everything. And I'm one of those people. I'm a perfectionist. And even in my career, which, we were talking about earlier, like I'm a construction lawyer.
Yeah.
So I'm in another male dominated field
Absolutely.
in my
Yeah.
career path. And, you know, to have the confidence to walk into a room and to assert yourself and be confident in what you're doing and what you're saying sometimes isn't easy.
No.
Especially because people look at me and, you know, for the first year of my page, a lot of times the comments that I would get, you know, were either sexual in nature. They were, if my husband caught it for me, or if, and I don't have a husband, you know, like, you know, they were things like that, like, oh, did your daddy teach you how to fish? My dad doesn't even fish.
Yeah.
But like, and nothing against anybody whose daddy taught him to fish, like, that's great. Just, that's not where
it was derogatory though. It wasn't like in a nice way.
This is my passion.
Yeah.
Like, nobody fed it to me. I'm not doing it because my boyfriend did it or my husband did it or
whatever.
my brother did it. Like, I do this because I do it for me.
Yeah.
And I think that perception sometimes is intimidating for women to put themselves out there because they know that's the feedback that they get.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't give a damn. Like, I'm me. And does it get old? Yeah.
Ugh.
Sometimes that gets old. You know, but that's part of it. And you just kind of got to roll with it. And the positives so far, you know, outweigh the negatives. Like,
absolutely. Yeah, you definitely have to, it's tougher, you know, and it's definitely a tougher world to try to shine in a sense, I guess, you know, because you definitely are, I don't know, females in their we just, like you said, it's like we go into a room and if we go out to a lake and, you know, the whole line of fishermen are all male, then it's kind of like, it is intimidating. I get that. I totally do. I was the only female in that catch co contest. And I don't know if anybody else caught on to that. I was the only female in that contest. And I made it not far, like I made it to the midway, somewhere in the middle there. And I feel like that was a big thing because I was the first female on one of those shows or on one of those challenges. And they're going to end up doing more contests and stuff like that in the future. So for me, that's a big deal. You know what I mean? Like, so
well, like the first big boat tournament that I did, I was one of 2 women in it. Wow. You know, out of like a field of 150 boaters and 150 co-anglers. So wow. Like 300 people, 2 women.
Yeah.
And in Texas, there's a lot more female anglers, I've noticed, in the big boat tournaments. But when I say a lot, like there's
2,
maybe 10 of us. You
know?
Right.
Wow. That, I mean,
in Texas, it's usually more like a 250 boat tournament. So they're a little bit bigger.
Wow.
But I mean, out of that, you know, 200 and I guess 500 anglers, there may be 10 women, you know, 3 or 4 boaters and 5 or 6 co-anglers. Like,
and that shows you the, I guess maybe it's a lack of confidence that we lack or something like that. I wonder. I do wonder. I want to encourage it more though. I do. I want to figure out how to like get that to be like get to the wayside of it. You know, I want it to be more equally out there. I think we all do. Cause like, to me, I feel like you explaining two female anglers out of 100 or so, 300 people or 600, however big, you know, you
300, yeah.
That to me, like almost puts a pie chart and shows you the dynamic of how flooded that is with males. Like that's exactly how it is. There's a lot of male anglers, and then every now and again you might see another female angler. I can't say I've hardly ever seen any female anglers out on the bank. Out of all the local ponds I fish, I've maybe seen 1 out of the 2 years I've gone. You know what I mean? So they're just not as common.
And now that you say that, I don't know that I've ever seen one. You know, I run into guys all the time.
All the time, guys are out there doing
stuff, but yeah. And even looking at like my Instagram followers, I mean, and I feel like I push a lot towards trying to gear towards female anglers.
Yeah.
But 90% of my followers are men. So yeah.
I have a lot. I'd have to look again, but yeah, I think it's almost like if you're in fishing, you're going to have more male followers. It's a lot easier to come across men to come on the show too. And it's not like I'm, you know, it's great. They're great guys. I've enjoyed the time I've spent and hang out with them, but it's kind of like, it's almost refreshing to have a female come on the show. It's different aspect. It's a different energy and everything, you know what I mean? And it's kind of like, I don't know. I kind of hate it that women do go through that, almost you need to be attractive or something in order to have a fish too, or your daddy caught it or something like that. Like, I feel like that's a stereotype for a lot. And
and I feel even with like the social media, the influencer thing,
right.
like a lot of people assume my page was handed to me because I'm a semi-attractive woman, who holds up this fish. But I mean, I put a lot of time and effort into my Instagram. I post 2 to 3 times a day. I post reels constantly.
Yeah.
I film, I fish at least,
a lot.
I mean, the winter, it's been a little less, but typically in the summer, I literally fish every day.
If you're fishing in the winter at all, you're fishing than more people. Usually you're fishing more than most people anyway. Like a lot of people just hang it up,
Yeah. So I mean, and then Texas winter is like,
Georgia winter.
Yeah.
we have similar winters. I feel like they're not really wintry.
But it is hard for me, usually I would go fish in the morning. Well, right now my mornings are 30 degrees and I don't really feel like putting on a parka to go fish, because if I wear that and then I go to work, by the afternoon it's 75.
Yeah, it's
so
hot.
It's like
yeah. I get that.
But I think that perception somewhat needs to change. I don't know that it will, but maybe having just more females like us out there doing it helps to
and
change
talking. Yeah. And see,
and I'll say 95% of the men I interact with are great.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I 100% agree.
Feel like I'm like,
not bashing men. We're not bashing men by any means. We're just, we want to see more females out there doing it too, because it's fun. And I'll be very honest with you. I promise, when it comes to the people I reach out to, I try to take a good look at all the profiles and everything, because I have the opinion, I believe that there are a lot of women out there that do a lot of that influencer stuff, and they do get in a bikini and they get in there and they hold the big and they do it for those purposes. You know what I mean? They're looking for a following and all that, and they do that. And so for a lot of that, you can follow them all day long, but like, I haven't reached out to anybody like that, because I agree. I think I can see I see you actually fish like I do. You know what I mean? I feel like that's the biggest thing, is that I go onto the page and I can see somebody actually going out and actually catching the fish and fishing and doing all the great stuff and the work behind making it actually happen. It's not, I don't know, it's not always about the looks of it. I feel like there are a stereotypical part of women that do that. And I feel like that almost gives the real female anglers a bad name.
Yeah.
But that's what I think. I'm on the harder working side of things. I feel like I do the real deal. I go fishing as much as I can. I try to get the real pictures. I try to actually catch the fish and make the reels. And yeah, so I totally agree. And I see that for you, as far as, me watching you, I see you actually doing that. So I appreciate that too.
But yeah, and I feel like I hope, maybe for the next generation of female anglers, it'll be a little easier.
Yeah.
And like, I was able to go to Ann's tackle shop last time I was down in Jasper, and she was fishing like in the 70s as a female at like the top of this sport, and so that for me was really inspiring.
Absolutely.
Like women like that have paved the way, for the rest of us to even be able to step in, and for me to just show up at a tournament and be like, hey, I'm fishing this.
Right. To be allowed to.
Every boater I've ever had, I've never had an issue with them. Like, I've never had anybody treat me disrespectful. And I feel like for women on the tournament side, like, it's really intimidating, because it's, but it's one of those things, like, you don't know till you don't know, right? Like,
right. Yeah. You gotta actually.
So once you get out there and once you start doing it, like, it's a lot of fun. Like, I mean, after my first tournament, I was completely hooked, and now I've got a kayak, and I'm like, maybe I'll do some kayak tournaments.
I want to see, and that's like a goal of mine one day. I don't know. I got to get out and get my kayak. I got to get used to getting it out and actually getting it out there. Once I get it out there, I feel like I'll be able to, you know, become one with it like you're supposed to. But like kayak tournaments, I feel like would be so much fun. If for anything else, they'll just be like a fun thing to do, you know. And yeah, I feel like the next generation that we have coming up, you have a lot of tournament guys out there right now that have little girls, a lot of them, and that are raising their daughters to coming up as future anglers too. So I hope for
well, and you're even seeing a lot of women competing at higher levels, you know, like Christine Fisher. I mean, is one who I think she's absolutely amazing. I'm so excited.
She's been doing great. She's doing a lot of path making for herself too on that. I feel like she's done a lot.
Yeah, in May I'm doing like a women's like kayak training with her on Lake Fork. So excited to get to meet her and a bunch of other cool. really great anglers, including some other really great female anglers who are going to be doing the instruction and teaching and things. So
that'll be fun.
Yeah, but I feel like women like that are kind of, whether intentionally or not, kind of showing other anglers like.
Oh, we froze on me there. Am I having trouble with my internet again? Hold on, I'm sorry, you froze on me.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's my fault. I keep wondering if it's my internet, but yeah, it says on across my screen, it says your internet connection is unstable. I don't know why. There's like, it doesn't like to have this issue all the time, just wants to have problems tonight. But you were saying that, you know, you were saying that whether they know it or not, she's paving it, making it easier for us.
Well, and they're showing other women you can do this, you know. Right. So I think that's a great thing, and hope I start seeing more women out there on the tournament trail, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. I mean, it'd be nice I'm looking forward to the day where you're walking around on the bank and you see female anglers just like you see male anglers. You know, that'll be cool. And we've totally gotten off subject of the Texas rig, but that's okay, because I haven't had a chance to be able to talk to, you know, you're the first female, so it's one of those things that like I haven't gotten a chance to talk about it with guys because there's just a lot of them out there. So it's like, as far as being able to pick and choose, you know, it's a lot. There's just a lot. So I'm glad I'm glad somebody came on.
I always tread lightly on that subject too, because I don't want it to come across as I'm bashing men. I'm one of those girls who was always one of the guys, you know, like I've been a tomboy my whole life. Yeah. And so like, yeah, I like to put on makeup and now I wear pretty things, but like, I've always just been comfortable hanging, you know, most of my friends were always guys, that kind of thing. So for me to walk in, you know, to a fishing tournament and jump on some man's boat and go fish with them who I've never met isn't a big deal. Right. But for a lot of women, I can see how that would be an intimidating experience.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That being said, the male community has also been super supportive of me as a tournament angler, of me on my Instagram page, and, you know, growing, you know, my knowledge of fishing. Yeah. And that's for me what it's all about. And so the community as a whole, I think, is there. There are some outliers. Yeah. To that. Yeah. But that's with anything, you know.
Absolutely. Like, yeah. I mean, there's always an exception, but I completely agree. I by no means am trying to bash guys. If it weren't for most, because let's be real, there aren't many female anglers out there. So if it weren't for majority of the male anglers that I watch on YouTube or that I talk to or anything, I wouldn't know a lot of the things that I know. You know what I mean? So and they are very welcoming. I've had a lot of warmth when it comes to all the guys that I've had on the show so far. I mean, they've been very great. They've been wonderful. And so I think that's something that is almost a little underestimated, is the actual welcoming of the fishing community. Yeah, it might be majority men, so it might be intimidating, but just if you kind of like go with it and roll with it, you'll get comfortable really quick. Like they try to make you feel part of the pack for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, they've been really supportive, you know, like I have so many men who have been influential in helping me become a tournament angler and become a better angler. And I don't know that I would have done it, honestly, without their encouragement and support that I can do this. Right. So, and I don't even know that it was something I would have considered. Like, I never thought I was going to be a tournament angler. I'm a highly competitive person, so it makes sense for me. Yeah. But if it wasn't suggested to me, like, hey, have you ever tried this? Have you ever thought about it? I probably would have just been happy, you know,
staying at the bank,
big bass out of my ponds. And
yeah.
taking pictures and smiling. But it's given me a new challenge. And maybe, maybe down the road, if I become successful in it, I'll inspire some little girl to come win the classic,
Right. That's the goal, right? That'd be cool. I mean, in general, like it'd be cool to like in 10 years from now or something, like from this conversation in 10 years, you're like winning some tournament. We'll have to like book it and make note of this right here. That'd be cool though. I mean, how do you enjoy doing the tournament angling? I mean, like
I'm totally bit by it. Like I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I drive almost 5 hours to every one of my big boat tournaments. Like
wow.
I literally drive across Texas. Like people are like, oh, well, it's in Texas.
Like, no, Texas is huge.
Like in most states, you could be in like 5 other states, but no, in Texas, like I'm still in Texas and I still have like an hour to go to get out. But yeah, no, I really love it. Cool. This is my second year, like my second season to do BFL. And then this year, I'm also going to do 3 of the Bass Opens. Wow. So I'm really excited about that. The experience, and I'm doing the co-angler side. So I'm not the boater. Boating is actually something I didn't grow up. I mean, like I said, my dad, my mom, they don't fish. So I didn't grow up on big water. I didn't grow up with boats. I had friends who had boats and I would go fish with them. But
they'd be driving.
The boater aspect and like charting and, breaking down big waters is something that this year I'm really focused on learning. So maybe in a year or 2, I can jump onto the boater side, but co-angling has been an invaluable learning experience. I mean, whether it goes good or bad, like I have huge takeaways and I learn lessons every tournament. And I feel like with each progressing tournament, I become a better and better angler. So
didn't something recently happen with you where you were like, yeah, I don't have to bring it up. It's fine. You said something that triggered me there where you're like, I've gotten bad experiences from it. And I know it happened where your guy just totally gave up or like something happened. I watched that video. I just can't recall because I just know you didn't end up going.
Yeah. So kind of the full story. We went out, our launch time was, I think 7. So we launched at 7, we went out, we hit our first spot. It took us about probably 15 minutes to get there. So we were fishing, we went in one little channel and I think he hit a stump or something that his trolling motor cable on one side stopped working. And so he could still steer right with the trolling motor, but to go left, he had to manually turn it. So the trolling motor wasn't working properly. His big motor still worked, and that happened at 8 a.m.
Oh, Lord.
So I was like, man, like I really need to fish this tournament. And he let me fish for about an hour out of that same little cove that we were fishing in. Like we worked our way back out and kind of back around. And he was like, once I get up to that point, we're done for the day. And I was really bummed. Like he sat and he fiddled around with it for a little bit, trying to get it to work. Which I just can't. I got in every cast I could possibly get in. I fished until he was literally like in the driver's seat, like getting ready to lowering his motor, like
making you get in.
casting. Because I was like, even if I just get one fish in the boat, like for me, like that was a big deal. I didn't get any fish in the boat. And it was I mean, in his defense, like I feel like I tell that story and a lot of people, have put him down or whatever. Which is it the decision I would have made? No.
Right.
Like that being said, it's not my equipment. It's not my boat.
Right.
Maybe for him, it was super frustrating. We were literally fishing in like 25-degree weather. Like it was freezing that morning. So
it's encouraging. That's like encouraging to like not want to do things. You know what I mean? When you're super cold, it's a lot easier to be like done.
And for him, maybe he felt like he was wasting money at that point, burning gas to keep me fishing when he wasn't going to be able to. I don't know. I'm not.
His head wasn't in the game.
Yeah, he was done. which means I was done because as a co-angler,
it's not
you're
up
not
to you.
fishing as, and I feel like I have to explain that because a lot of people don't understand. In the BFL, you're not fishing as a team. Like you're fishing individually. I fish from the back of the boat and he fishes from the front of the boat. I don't choose my boater. It's a random draw. The night before, I literally find out who I'm fishing with.
Dang, I figured you might have a little bit more notice than that. Night before, wow.
So a lot of times, like I'll go out and pre-fish with other people to get a feel for the lake, you know, see what's working, what's not working. But like I've had situations where I fished one end of the lake and pre-fish and it was like, I have my game plan down, I know what to throw. And then my boater takes me out to a completely different, like one day, like, I mean, we were catching them shallow, like throwing topwater frogs and they were just like exploding up on them. And then I go out the next day with my boater and he takes us to deep water.
And it's like, okay, well, no, can't catch. I mean, you can, it's not like you can't, but like it's.
Well, and we had talked the night before.
I was gonna ask, like, is it beneficial for you to be like, hey, the fish are here, right? Like, I mean, I know you don't want, I know you're going like against him, but
we had talked, well, and you're not, so you're not competing against your boater. So all the boaters compete against the boaters.
Oh, okay. Okay. So then you're not against each other. So then it would be for the wiser to go where the fish are.
Yeah. And we caught a lot of fish that day. They were all spotted bass that were like just short.
Ah, man.
So in Texas, they have to be 14. And they were all like 13 3/4. And I was like, oh my God.
This is a joke.
I think I ended up with 3 in my bag that day, which, you know, was okay. But that was an interesting day too. But I learned a lot of lessons like that day.
Yeah.
We had talked and we had said we were going shallow all day. So I didn't prepare for deep water fishing. Like everything I brought, because as a co-angler, I have to bring all my tackle.
Right.
So I brought stuff mainly for shallow fishing because I thought we were fishing topwater frogs and Texas rig. And I was going to do my thing in shallow, which I'm most comfortable with. And so we go out deep and I'm like,
I don't know what I'm doing.
And so I had never fished a drop shot in my life. I didn't even know how to tie a drop shot knot, but I was like, well, there's no time like the present. And I took my wacky rig hooks and I tied a uni knot because I didn't even know what kind of knot to tie. Now I know to tie a polymer knot, but
yeah, I was going to say it's the polymer knot. You know to stick it through too, right?
Yes.
Okay, I was going to say if you don't, because that's one thing people tend to forget. They'll just do the polymer knot, but then you want to come back through so that your hook stands straight up.
Yeah. I learned this the next day. But I literally I didn't have any drop shot weights. So I took a bullet weight.
Hey,
and I
weight's a weight.
And I probably caught 12 fish on that rig that day. Only 3 measured, but
hey, you know, yeah, that's that. So you probably got a new appreciation for the drop shot.
I did. Yeah. And the next day I actually went out with a friend of mine because we were both, you had to qualify for the next day of the super tournament. And so we were both out, but we were like, let's go fish anyways. We were supporting one of our friends who was fishing in it.
Nice.
And so he taught me how to like properly set up a drop shot and gave me drop shot weights and was like, here's how you really, you know, rig it. But yeah, so I learned a whole new rig, you know, just on the fly, because as a co-angler, you get thrown into a lot of circumstances that you wouldn't otherwise expect to be in.
And you have to adapt. And you have
to be able to like shake things off quickly and
make it work.
Next thing and move on, because every boater fish is different. And so that part of it I am loving. You know, circumstances like the last tournament are hard to deal with, but those are part of it. Like
they're gonna come. I mean, and it's kind of like, it's good to get it out of the way early so that you can also have like almost a ready mind frame for when something like that happens in the future. You know what I mean? Because if it would have been a long time before something like that happened, then you would have been totally thrown off. I think, you know, for it to happen early on, it kind of teaches you early on, hey, bad things can happen. It's not up to you, especially if you're a co-angler. You know what I mean? And a lot of people start out tournaments as a co-angler because they want to get comfortable. Like, and that's exactly what you're doing right now. You're going into it, you're getting more comfortable into actually feeling the, you know, the whole tournament vibe and what it is going to be a boater and everything.
And I did learn, I mean, I learned a few things, you know, I learned a few things about myself because I was so upset about it. But then I also learned,
That's good.
that
I mean, self-recognition, like that's a good thing, I feel
like the next time I will probably lobby my boater. I sat there mad and quiet because that was my reaction, because I was like, the words that are going to come out of my mouth if I speak aren't going to be great. Um, but I really think, had I maybe said, can you give me one more hour? Or can you give me, can we just go around that next bend? Like maybe he would have let me keep fishing. And maybe if I caught a fish, he would have picked up his rod and kept fishing too. So I think I think if I'm put in a situation like that again, like I will push harder than I did.
Yeah.
But I was trying to be respectful of him. It's his boat, it's his equipment, it's his decision. Ultimately.
Is there a fee and everything that you have to pay too? Like,
yeah.
So like and do you get any kind of money back?
No. And I drove 5 hours in an ice storm together,
I would have, definitely. Next time I'd push, I mean, cause I just wanted to make sure there was reason to push, you know what I mean? It'd be a lot different if the whole situation was free and it was right around the corner, but 5-hour drive in an ice storm and you paid money that you don't get back. Yeah. I definitely respect the push on that one, being even a co-angler, you know what I mean? Like you've earned it too.
And so I think that's, those are the lessons, like if you're willing to learn the lesson and to keep going, that you can get out of those experiences, whether they're good or bad. So
yeah, definitely. That's cool. I'm excited. One day I'll end up being somewhat of a tournament angler. I think it'd be kind of cool. I think I want to do more on kayaking. I don't know about boating. I'm not against boating. I mean, I've been out on a boat a couple of times. I think it's fun. I just feel like it's pretty flooded right now. I feel like almost, but I don't know. We got a lot of guys out there on their boats.
Yeah, I love the big boats. I have a lot of fun fishing on big boats.
Yeah.
But I am liking the kayaking thing. It is, for me, kayaking is hard because like it's an individual challenge.
Yeah.
It was really hard. I took my Hobie out for the first time last weekend and I was like, man, I got to remember to pedal. Yeah. Man, I kept floating. I don't have an anchor system yet. So I kept floating to the bank, because I was focused on fishing, right, as opposed to focusing on what my kayak's doing. So,
and that's going to be a whole nother thing you have to learn being a boater too, because as a boater,
motor and fishing,
you're controlling everywhere that boat goes and doing all that. And, before you know it, you end up hitting a stump and that's no good.
Yeah. No, for sure. But
and then you're gonna end up having to take home you're telling your co-angler you gotta go home.
Yeah, we got a hole in the boat. We gotta go home.
Yeah. Oh darn. How about another hour? No, we're gonna be sunk by then.
Yeah.
That's funny. Oh, all right. So it's almost 10 o'clock my time. I've appreciated you coming and joining me on the show. We did talk about Texas rig somewhat there. I like going off the rail and talking about everything else. It's kind of like it's a benefactor of like really getting to know you too. And I like being able to see like the different sides of the real life. It's kind of like the real you in real time kind of thing. I don't know. It's like behind the whole fishing aspect of it. But I really appreciate you joining me. You are the first female, so thank you again for that. I hopefully we've broken some ice here. Hopefully we get some more women who are encouraged to come on the show. I've got a couple more lined up. Hopefully I got to schedule it, but I'm getting a couple more at least. I'm grateful for that. But the dynamic on that, just don't be mad that I have a bunch of guys who come on because I can't help it. It's just females just aren't as often to come by for the angling world. But I'm trying. Okay, I'm reaching out there and I'm getting them.
Well, and the one thing I'd say to like females or any beginner angler, I mean, not even just females, but anyone who's starting to fish, more seriously, is it's okay to not know things. Like it's okay to say, I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, right.
Here's what I would do in that situation, but I don't really know the answer. I mean, that's okay. Like it's okay to not know and it's okay to learn. That's how you learn. So
yeah, I mean, not knowing is exactly how you learn because you have to figure it out somehow. I mean, somebody can tell you can watch YouTube videos all day long, but until you go out there and you actually try it yourself and you put a rod and a reel in your hand and you throw it, whatever it is you're trying to throw out there, the only way you're going to really know how to do it is going out there and doing it.
Yep.
So, but all right, I'm going to go up. I'm going to finally get trying to go to bed here eventually soon. I say I'm old, but I'm not, I guess. I just feel it sometimes. But all right, I appreciate it, and I will have to do it again sometime. Maybe we can get a whole maybe we can get a group of females to come on. That would be cool. We'll have to shoot for that.
I'll lobby some. I know a few really good ones.
Yeah, it sounds like you know some. It sounds like you know you're in Texas, so you probably come across a lot more anglers in general than I do, probably, especially being from a tournament aspect. So yeah, if you got some, you know, send them my way. I'll shoot them a DM or something like that, and we'll get it going.
I would throw their names out who I'm thinking, but then I don't want to put them on the spot.
Yeah, no, don't do that. I don't want them to feel pressured. That's fine. You know, that's all good. I got a few that I've talked to, like I said, so we'll get it going somehow. That'd be really cool. I'd like to see more diversity of between, you know, before you see like 6 or 7 guys, I'd like to have more women in between, but we'll see. I mean, we'll see how that goes in the long run, but all right. We're like, I think the 3rd time now. I don't know. Anyway, I'll talk to you later. We'll figure it out, and I'd love to do it again soon, and I'll let you know when the video is dropping. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
Tight lines.
Bye. Hold on.
No, we don't have to.
No, it's okay. No, go for it. No, it's fine. We're recording it. Okay, so we have to show the plastics. So this is the ADHD that totally happens in the conversations. We have plastics and stuff we had to show off on what's good on the Texas rig.
Okay, I'm gonna show some of my favorites.
Yeah.
There's a few of my favorites. This is a crawl worm.
So I love those. Yeah.
So it's like a worm, but a craw at the end.
Yes.
And that's made by the Hale Lure Company.
Okay.
One of my other favorites that is during the summer, man, and the fall, this is my go-to.
Oh, yeah.
Ribbon tail worms.
The ribbon tail, just classic ribbon tails.
Yep.
I love the ribbon tails. Those are fun. I love those a lot. Actually, I actually have some. This was actually, see, we talked about display. I had mine right here too, and it's the ribbon. So.
And you got to get used to the feel of the hook set on that, because a lot of times they'll take the tail and you've got to wait till you actually feel them take the bait. Oh, I lost a monster during a tournament doing that. I watched take it, and instead of feeling it, I used my eyes instead of my feeling.
Ah, yeah. You saw it attack it first. Yeah, that'll trick you.
So this is the hogwalla is something new.
Hogwalla. Is that like a lizard?
It's like a lizard. It's made by 6 Sense, but the scented ones I've gotten into.
Yeah, they have that. Do they have like a certain smell?
Yeah, this one, I think it's anise.
And what? Yeah, what is that? What is anise? I thought it was kind of a funny name, to be honest. I wasn't ever sure. It smells. I like that smell.
Anise is a spice. But it's what's licorice is made with.
Oh, that makes sense. It definitely has that sweeter smell. Huh?
I said, and Mexican spice cookies. But
I did not know that. Okay, I didn't know what anise. I guess I could have Googled it. You know, we have Google it at our hands. You know, but
then, of course, you can do your typical craw, your typical Senko.
Yes. Yeah, those are those Gamakatsus.
The generals. A lot of times if I'm dragging, I like to use the generals. I don't like the way these float as much as the Yamamoto, but to like drag a worm on the bottom, these are like stinky.
So do they sink more?
These are really dense. Yeah, they're like heavy.
Okay. See, I haven't used. I've heard of Berkeley and Power Bait. I've heard great things. Alex Rudd will talk all day about those guys. They love. Yeah, he loves.
These are the max scent, and they do attract bass. Like
they've gone into all kinds of Berkeley specifically has gone into all kinds of research. Like I said, Alex Rudd and we talked about it, and they've gone into like a lot of in-depth science behind the scent and everything that they put into that max scent mixture, whatever they do. So I need to get some. I don't know why I haven't yet, because I've heard great things about them. So I need to get them and try them out for sure. But
those are some of my favorites.
There we go. Okay, so those are the plastics. All right. So now we're gonna get off this time. I'll see you next time.
Thanks, Jay.
All right, guys, there you go. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. Tiffany, thanks so much for joining me. I really, truly appreciate it. Talking about the Texas rig is always fun for me. Texas rig is the OG of fishing to me. So, like, you got to use it. If you haven't used it, you should try it. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, turn on all your notifications so that you know when the next video drops. And you guys know how it goes, right? If we're out there fishing, and we're out there catching, and we are out there really showing that there's a lot of diversity in fishing. No complaints.
I'm not always the most coordinated person. I may have fallen off a boat and fallen in the pond a few times, and those are not like, these are not staged things. Like this.
A lot of people have those moments. It's fine.
Yeah.